I love it when I'm researching a Tudor person and I come across a strange fact, a weird piece of trivia about them. Everything's normal. They were born on the blah blah at blah blah, and then things suddenly get odd. And that's what happened when I researched the life and career of a Tudor nobleman named Henry Clifford, 2nd Earl of Cumberland. Now, this 2nd Earl of Cumberland actually died on this day in history, the 8th of January 1570, in the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. He had a pretty normal death, dying at the age of around 54 at his home Broome Castle in Cumbria in the north of England. Oh, by the way, that's Broome spelled Brougham, one of those great English place names that catches you out. Now, this Earl had a normal start too. Well, an extremely privileged start, but not at all odd. He was born in 1515 and was the eldest son of Henry Clifford, 1st Earl of Cumberland, and his second wife, Margaret Percy, daughter of the 5th Earl of Northumberland. As the eldest son of an important nobleman, Clifford went to the royal court in his youth and was appointed to attend on Henry VIII's illegitimate son, Henry Fitzroy, Duke of Richmond and Somerset. When he was about 18, Clifford was made a Knight of the Bath at Queen Anne Boleyn's coronation celebrations, and 2 years later, in 1535, he married the king's niece, Eleanor Brandon, daughter of Mary Tudor, Queen of France, the king's sister, and Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, the king's best friend. It was an excellent match for Clifford, and the couple went on to have 3 children, a daughter, Margaret, and 2 sons, Henry and Charles. The boys sadly died young. In 1537, at the funeral of Queen Jane Seymour, Henry VIII's wife, at Windsor, Clifford was chosen to attend on the king's eldest daughter, Mary. And on the 1st of January 1540, he was in attendance at the rather disastrous meeting of Henry VIII and Anne of Cleves at Rochester. He was also appointed as Henry VIII's carver in 1540. Everything is still very normal, isn't it? And in the 1540s, like other men of his status, Clifford served in the royal forces in the north. But he did unfortunately lose out on the prestigious position of Warden General of the Marches, with it being granted to John Dudley instead. He was appointed to the Council of the Borders, though, and then to the Council of the North. Sadly, in 1547, Clifford's wife Eleanor died. Although their match had been an arranged one, their marriage was a happy one and one of love. And here we have the strange fact about this Tudor Earl. According to a Clifford family story, Henry Clifford was so devastated at his wife's death that it was believed he'd die. The only thing that stopped the Grim Reaper in his tracks was a woman's breasts. Yes, he was saved from a certain death by suckling from a woman's breasts. Was it comfort? Was he saved by the nutrition in the breast milk? Was it something else? Who knows? But he was saved. Oh, and by the way, don't start searching online for that. He recovered, but he chose to retire from court and spent time on his northern estates, dabbling in distilling, alchemy, and astrology. In 1553, following the death of King Edward VI, Clifford narrowly avoided becoming caught up in the succession crisis. In the months before the king's death, John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland, who was leader of the young King Edward VI's government, had wanted Clifford's daughter Margaret to marry his son Lord Guildford Dudley. But Guildford ended up marrying Clifford's niece, Lady Jane Grey, instead. And Margaret ended up marrying Henry Stanley, 4th Earl of Derby. This probably saved Clifford from the Tower, and perhaps even from death, when Mary I took the throne from Jane and went about punishing her supporters. In 1554, Clifford married his second wife, Anne Dacre, who was the daughter of William, 3rd Baron Dacre of Gilsland, and his wife, Lady Catherine Neville. The couple went on to have at least 3 children, George, who'd become 3rd Earl of Cumberland and who was Elizabeth I's champion, Francis, who'd become 4th Earl, and a daughter, Frances, who married Philip Wharton, 3rd Baron Wharton. In Elizabeth I's Protestant reign, Clifford was accused of supporting Catholic priests in the north. However, things improved for him when his son George married Margaret Russell, daughter of the Earl of Bedford, a member of a Protestant circle at court. Although Clifford was implicated at first in the 1569 Catholic Rising of the North, a rebellion by fellow Catholic Northern Earls, Clifford was able to demonstrate his loyalty to Elizabeth I by holding his castle at Broome in her name. He died on this day, the 8th of January 1570, and was buried at Holy Trinity Church, Skipton. Thank you for joining me.